All right, so it's the 5 I's that I call for the invitation for communication. Invitation generally implies that there's some kind of maybe obligation involved, some exchange of things. If I invite you to dinner at my home and you come and I hand you a fishing rod and some bait, you may or may not get dinner that night, but it's certainly not probably what you were thinking when I invited you for dinner. Is that right, Don? Yeah. Unless you really love to fish, right? So what really happens in communication is that we are trying to get other people to actually think the same way that we do. Now, we may not really, think about it that way ourselves, and some people will say that all communication is selling. Well, in effect, all communication is selling. We're just trying to get you to see it my way, see it from my point of view. If you're trying to put, convince a 6-year-old to go to bed at a certain hour, you're trying to sell him or her on the idea that this is beneficial to them. And the 6-year-old is doing a tremendous job on selling you on the idea that just 5 more minutes is going to be beneficial, to the person who's trying to sell them the other way. And they're great at it, aren't they? So in many respects, we are always selling. You may not, because we don't like to use that word, selling, do we? All right, so the invitation for communication, it always starts with what is your intention. And you have to be very clear about what your intention is. And you have to be very honest about your intention. Because it can go wrong right from the start, can it? If you have kind of ulterior motives, or if you think, well, my intention is really to do this, but I'll make it sound like my intention is to do that. And what happens when you try to communicate with somebody and the thing you get back is maybe only a half-truth? What happens with your response? Becomes a half-truth back, doesn't it? Because you're responding to the information that was given you, and if that's not true, then the response back can't be. It's based on that information. Mm-hmm. And then it spirals and spirals and spirals out of control. This happens all the time. We never stop to say, wait a minute, if I'm not getting the whole story here, I can't respond to the whole story. So, your intention again is, what is the result of your message? What do you really want to have happen? I know a friend recently said to me, actually it was a few years ago, and she said to me, I finally realized that not everybody thinks the same way that I do. I said, really, it took you this long? Sometimes we think everybody thinks the same way we do. If I just say it loud enough, they'll think the same way. So the intention is the result of your message. The information is actually, that's your message. That's what you're conveying, that's what you're saying. It's either what you're directing, it's a request, it's what you're asking, it's again, even if it's condolence, you're conveying your message there. So you want to be sure that it is clear, it's a clear message, that you're giving every piece of the message that needs to be given so that you can actually get the result, so you can actually get your intention. Okay, the interpretation is how the other person is deciphering your message. And it isn't always the way we think, right? We put out a message and haven't you had this? You tell somebody something and then they do something completely the opposite and you're